All right. Hope this doesn't echo. There we go. Cool. How are you guys doing? Awesome. Can't believe it's Friday already. Weeks when you have Monday as a holiday seem to go by just like that, right? Like it was weekend just yesterday. Well, first, just want to give an introduction to Ignite, because this is series number 2. This is the Elementals program. And Spark is really just a foundational building process, whereas Elementals is a little bit higher level. And this is where we really get into the weeds, the strategies, the techniques to help you build a solid business in real estate. And so, we're kicking off that session today, and we have an entire month of awesome instructors lined up. And so you want to make sure that this is on your calendar. We start every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Ignite starts at 10, but we actually kick it off with prospecting and script practice at 9 o'clock, which we just wrapped up with a few who showed up this morning. And that's a time where you can come and be able to practice. And what you'll find is, based off what we've talked about today, Austin, Stetson, what does script practice and role playing help you to actually do when it's game time? Builds confidence, right? Which is one of the biggest keys to building a big business, is the level of confidence that you have. But I promise you're not going to feel confident in the situation if you're just showing up and winging it. And so you want to practice when it doesn't count. One of my mentors, when I was doing door-to-door sales many years ago, he would say to not practice on money. Okay, he'd say don't practice when it actually counts. If you think about Tom Brady, you think about Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, all these greats from a sports perspective, did they ever show up to the game and say, this is going to be my practice time? How many hours of practice did they put in, throughout the week to prepare for their game time? A lot of hours. So Tom Brady might spend 40 hours in practice for that 1 hour of playtime, which is kind of unique to think about. So the question I have for each of you is, how much time do you have time blocked on your schedule to practice your craft, to become an expert with being able to effectively communicate with people about real estate? Okay, that's going to be a big determiner of your success. And so that's the key, and that's what this class is for it not only to be very informative, but also for us to take action in practicing and prospecting to start making the necessary moves in your business. Because the goal is for you to have a piece of business from this course by the end of the month. Okay, there's 9 different sessions, and we want to help you get a piece of business by the end of the course. Okay. Now that's going to come through your implementation of what we teach, right? Implementation and execution is the most commonly skipped step when it comes to real estate agents. And that's where, again, 80% of people fall off in their first 2 years, is because they want to learn, but forget to execute. Okay. So make sure that going out of this class today, we'll have a solid exit strategy or plan in place for you to go and execute or implement the things that you learned today. Cool. Awesome. So this is session number 1, prospecting. And this is really, I would say, the meat and potatoes of how to build a big business. Like, I would actually say that, did anybody go to Win with Sellers yesterday? Clay? Amazing class, right? Great course. And actually, let's just really quickly, what were some of the ahas or things that stood out to you about Clay and about his process? And for those of you who are fairly new, we do record these for those who are not able to be here in person, and they can't hear us without the mics. So we've got to use a mic. So who would like to share some experience from yesterday? Sam.
Anytime Clay was talking about, or like role playing anything, or just like saying what he would say, he was super like He was just looked super confident, and everything he said was really clear and made a lot of sense. And so it was like, if I was selling my house, I'd want to go with Clay.
So as an agent, you're saying if I were not an agent, I would choose this guy to sell my home.
Yeah.
Awesome. Travis.
Yeah, just going back to role play, he's done it so many times you couldn't even tell it's scripted, because he said it was he's gone over scripts hundreds of times, but he's done it so many times he can kind of form it to himself. But then also the way he puts soft closes in everything he does. No matter what part of the presentation, over the phone, everything is a soft close. So you're gonna, like, psychologically, you're already thinking, oh, I'm gonna use him. So
Do you have an example of that? What a soft close might look like?
just like over the phone, if he's doing like a pre-qual on like a listing presentation or something. So right before he goes into the listing presentation, he'll call them and then he'll say, okay, well, if all this sounds good, are you ready to move forward and list your home with me? He does it better than that, but that's just an example of what it is. And they'll say, yeah. So
the foot in the door technique, right? Getting them to say yes to the smaller things. So that way, when it's game time and they're actually about to sign the listing agreement, it's a lot easier for them to say yes, right? Perfect. Anybody else want to share an experience from yesterday or takeaway? No sweat. If it comes back, feel free. Awesome. So through this course, and just a little introduction for me, for those, most people in this room know who I am, but for those who are new, I am the high performance coach here at KW Westfield. And so my focus is helping agents get into production, helping them to navigate that first couple of years of their career where, there's a lot of moving parts in this space. And there's some specific techniques and strategies you can implement to get into production quickly, but also to build a solid foundation for your future. And so throughout the Ignite course, what we're really our aim again is to help you get into production in the next month, but it's going to come through the execution side of this business, right? Now, today, what we're going to be focusing on is understanding the different prospecting methods you can select from or choose from, and then also helping you to craft your own prospecting plan to leave this session with, okay? So that way, moving forward, you have some clarity around what you're going to use as prospecting methods so you can be effective and efficient with your time. Let's see if we'll be able to use this. Sweet. Awesome. So what we're going to focus on today is lead generating for buyers and sellers. And specifically, we want to lead generate, obviously, for listings. One of the things that Clay pointed out as well yesterday is that listings provide leverage, right, for your time and for your business, and can help you actually scale your business. So that's going to be a big key of it, but prospecting in general to get more buyers and sellers in your pipeline. Okay. Now, what we know is these are the actions that successful agents do every day. They do both of these. They grow their business and they run their business. Those are the two pillars that they focus on. And as you can see, some of the specifics over here, obviously lead generating for buyers and sellers, making seller listing presentations and getting listings, making buyer presentations and getting listings, and previewing real estate. Those should be your top focuses each day. Now, you also have to focus on running the business, right? And that's these specific techniques here. The problem is, too often, agents, when they first get into the business, they'll focus on one or the other. And so if you're only focused on the business, what's eventually going to take place is you're going to have a breakdown in the quality of service you provide to your clients. So you're not going to build a repeat and referral business. And likewise, if you focus on only running the business and not growing the business, you end up with an inconsistent closing schedule, okay? Where you might have one closing every 3, 4, 5 months and then a drought. And we want to help avoid that by making sure that you understand that these two techniques need to be scheduled on your calendar, need to be a priority every single week. Okay. So prospecting is really, this first one that we're going to be talking about, prospecting is really the path and your map to lead generation success. Before we dive in, can somebody kind of give me a summary of what prospecting is?
Talking to people to get leads.
Talking to people to get leads. What were you going to say, Travis?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's different than marketing. Marketing leads come to you, you're going out, or prospecting, you're going out and doing your efforts, door knocking, making phone calls, and you're seeking the leads. So same thing she said.
Yeah, awesome. So prospecting is lead generation effort that is proactive and direct. Okay. And as Travis kind of touched on, marketing is reactive and you're waiting for people to come to you. Okay. So you want to be able to proactively go out and find leads to put into your database. That's what your prospecting efforts should be geared towards. So as we look at the lead generation model, this is in the MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Handbook. And it explains that there's two different types of ways that you could bring leads into your funnel. Okay, there's prospecting and there's marketing. Now, today we're focusing just on the prospecting side. There's another session this month where it's going to be just on marketing. So you'll get that later this month. But for today, we're specifically focusing, hyper-focusing on the prospecting side. So this is the lead generation model where you have this initial funnel of prospecting or marketing to bring or capture leads and contacts and bring them into your pipeline. And then once you've put them in your pipeline, it's all about, or your database is another term for that, is making sure that you're effectively and systematically nurturing them, that you're providing value to them over a certain period of time. And that's going to bring them in this cultivation phase, right? Which is where you have an interactive touch-based program where you're able to give them very hyper-focused value. Now I'm going to kind of take a pause here and talk about something that's unique and happening right now. So we have a very interesting shift that's taking place. I don't know the specific timelines for this, but at one point, one of the most valuable resources out there from a technology standpoint was hardware. Okay. And then Mr. Bill Gates came into the picture and he sold the company on him being able to provide what? Software, right? And that initial big company said, software, we don't care about software. We want to own the hardware. That's totally fine that you take over the software side. Now, who won the battle long-term? Software, for sure. Bill Gates, right? So Bill did pretty well for himself. Would not mind having him as a rich uncle. Be pretty nice. Or a good friend. Yes. But we've had another evolution happen. Where have we moved from software in today's day and age? Where do we store our information? The cloud. Now, when I first tried to explain this to my grandpa, he did not understand how there was information hanging in our clouds. Did not really connect. But we're going through another shift right now. And what is that? Where are we moving towards? And if you listen to Elon Musk, afraid. We're moving into a world of AI. Now, both of these require this piece of fuel, right? Data. AI interacts with data, right? And this is something that you guys are seeing, you have been influenced by for many years now. If we were to jump on Facebook, and why this is a relevant conversation, is this is what Command helped you with this entire process, which is our cloud storage software, right? It's our database that helps you really prepare for the future, okay? And what it is understanding that the consumer wants a personalized experience that's specific and individualized to them. Just like when we get on Facebook, Scott, let's say that we both open our Facebook accounts right now. Would we see the exact same thing?
No.
No. Why is that?
It's personalized.
It's personalized, right? Exactly. Your clients want the exact same experience from you right now. If you are an investor, you don't want to receive first-time home buyer information, right? That's where agents have to start using technology to effectively communicate with their clients in a very individualized experience, right? And so I know I kind of digressed here, but the reason why is because when you're prospecting, it's all about two different things. It's the message and the method, the two M's. So it's one, what message are you actually going to be sharing? And then what method are you going to use to share that story or that message? Okay. Now you have to realize right now that the message is going to be different for each of one of your clients. Okay. A first-time home buyer's messaging needs to be different than a listing, somebody who's selling their home. If you're sending somebody who wants to sell their home, first-time home buyer information, how happy are they going to be with you as a realtor? Right? Totally. They're going to ignore it, right? And so this is where today what we're going to be talking about is what methods can you use and what messages might you want to create, right? To be able to effectively prospect, to get as many people captured into your funnel as possible, and then send them through a systematic process of nurture and follow-up to provide a really over-the-top experience for them. Okay. And that's what you create down here at the bottom. There was another level, it's like repeat referral business. Okay. Is created through this process. So prospecting, Dan Kennedy, for those of you who were here maybe 2.5 weeks ago, Dan Kennedy, who's one of the top agents here at the brokerage, shared that, and he does over 100 transactions a year. And one of the things that he shared and somebody asked was, well, do you ever stop prospecting? Like, do you ever have too much business to where you have to just focus on supporting your clients? Guess what his answer was? No way. That is the one thing I will never do. I will hire somebody to support the clients before I stop prospecting. Okay, so you have to be prospecting based. That has to be the key source of your business. Okay. Otherwise, you won't have leads, which means you won't have the possibility of closing a transaction. Now, this is the question that I would like to ask let's actually go here first. So you've got number one, the message, and then number two, you've got the method. So you've got to realize that lead generation should always be intentional and purposeful. Okay. This is the key, the two keys or the two key foundations for building your message is that you want it to be intentional and purposeful. For example, I was having a conversation with an agent 2 days ago, and he said, "Hey, I have this investor client. I know we have a team event coming up. We have Keller Fest that's coming up at the end of this month. And he's a retired individual. He doesn't have kids. I don't know how valuable it's going to be for me to call him and invite him to come to this pumpkin patch." Now, how many of you would agree with that? Absolutely. So he's like, "So I'm stuck. I don't know what to do." So I said, "Well, what story would an investor want to hear? What if you actually start searching for good properties this week that are good investment properties, and you call them and you say, 'Hey, Scott, I just had this awesome investment property come across my desk. I wanted to see if you're in the market. I know you mentioned, that you're planning on investing in properties. I just wanted to see if you're looking actively for a property. If so, I can run down the details for you.'" Now, what are the two responses you might get from an investor in that kind of conversation? "Not right now, 6 months out, and then I'll be looking," or "Yes, send me the details." Like, it's pretty clean, cut, and dry, right? Now, had this individual called him and said, "Hey, we have this event coming up at the end of the month. I want to invite you guys to come in pumpkins." How do you feel that investor is going to respond? Maybe to try and be nice, right? Or maybe "It's okay, I think I'm busy," or "No thanks," right? So if you just take some thought up front of finding out, well, what would be valuable to this specific person? And this is where you have to get good at collecting data. You have to get good at when you're having a simple conversation and they share something with you that's relevant, put that in your pocket or store it in command. So that way you can go through before you call them and say, what is this person's profile? What are their specific needs? That's what helps you to create this intentional and purposeful message that you can then relay to them. Because part of the nurture process, how many times should we be calling a person throughout the year? 36 touches. If you call me 36 times, guess what I'm going to do to you? I'm going to block your phone number, right? But yes, you're on the right mark. You want to interact with them 36 different ways. 4 of them should be phone calls, once a quarter. Okay, once a quarter. So before making that phone call, though, you want to make it relevant. You want to make it intentional, right? And up front, guess what the main conversation should be for the first 1 or 2? What method? What script? For those of you who have been through the Ford method, right? Which is your family, occupation, recreation, and dream. Family, occupation, recreation, and dream. Which is essentially just a way to build a relationship, right? And so it's me calling and saying, "Hey, Adrian, how's the family doing? How's life been?" And then asking, "What are you doing for work? I remember last time we talked, you were at Adobe," or "Last time I saw on Facebook, you were working and doing in this space. What are you doing now?" And then she's going to say it. And guess what she's going to ask after she's done talking? "What have you been doing?" What does that do? Opens a can of worms, right? Gives you a lot of range and flexibility. And so when you're reconnecting with people using the Ford method just to build a relationship, having that be your intention is totally fine. You don't have to sell people when you're first starting that relationship or kicking that relationship off. Okay. Then down the road, you're strategic around, well, is it a CMA that would be valuable for them? For listings, That's usually one of the most valuable resources you can give them, is a comparable market analysis, letting them know what the value of their home is in this market. So basically crafting a message. So if I'm looking at my market to make an offer, I'm calling a potential listing, and saying, hey, I have access to this awesome software. I wanted to let all the people that I care about know about this, where I'm able to help you understand what the value of your home is in this market. Most people are unaware of how much equity they've built up. And so what I can do is do a CMA. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but basically it helps you get a good idea based off the comps in your area of what has recently sold, what your home is actually worth. Is it okay if I send that to your email? Now, if I did that to a first-time home buyer, how valuable would it be? They'd be like, I don't even have a house yet, right? So that's where, again, up front, it's all about this game: collecting data, calling your database, doing the Ford method to basically capture their bio. What is their situation? So that way, moving forward, you can craft intentional messages for them. That's what Facebook does to you. It's what Google does to you. It's what YouTube does to you. It's what Netflix does to you. Does anybody know that if we jump on Netflix together, my Netflix page is going to be very different than your Netflix page? No.
On Netflix, you have the different people like family.
Exactly.
And they're all different.
100%. So what if you're the real estate agent of the future that starts getting clear about being very specific for each individual, giving them their own real estate experience that they need based off what they're asking for, right? And they might not come out and blatantly ask for it. You have to listen, right? Active listening to, like, what are their real needs? Okay. And then that is what helps you to spark knowing what message you need to craft. The second piece is, well, what's the method? How do I want to deliver this message to this person? And that's where there's different ways to do so. Again, there's prospecting, which is you being proactive. And then there's their marketing. And that's where you're just throwing out, you're basically planting seeds is what it is. It's more of like the hunter and the farmer, right? It's like the farming method of marketing. It takes time. You've got to water those seeds consistently, right? And you got to, going into it, when you're planting those seeds, it's going to take a while for that harvest to come, right? And so once you've identified your message and your method, it's then all about time blocking and making sure that you have the right time block set aside for you to prepare, take action, and maintain that whole prospecting plan that you've created. So on your calendar, you actually should have prospecting times blocked off on your calendar and then marketing times blocked off on your calendar. But up front, it should be kind of 80-20. 80% should be prospecting, 20% should be marketing.
I want to share something I just learned this year.
Cool. Let me throw a mic over to you.
We have to understand how our clients, I don't know, receive our message, I guess, and how they communicate. I've always been one that I share. So I just like, this is what's going on with me, And I was talking to my son and I said, hey, I just want to check in and see how, our relationship is and stuff. And he said to me, he said, Mom, I know you are really good at sharing and you just share. But I just don't. I need to know someone is interested in me. I need them to ask. And my husband has always said that. And I'm just like, but with my son saying that to me that way, I was like, I get it. It was like, that is how you're looking at it. You don't want to divulge something that they don't maybe care about or something.
Right.
Anyway, it was really good. And I make sure I ask him.
I think that's great perspective on getting clear what questions you can ask a client to draw out the proper information, right? And so again, I will refer up front to using the Ford method. We actually have a script where there's about 5 or 6 questions per letter. So Ford, for family, you have 5 different questions you can choose from. And basically what that does is helps you get the right information out up front. So that way you then can kind of determine how to navigate moving forward with that client.
And don't you think that even before family is themselves, everybody loves to talk about themselves,
Yeah.
right? So it's like almost make it even more personal.
For sure. I mean, the simple question, how are you doing? It's been a long time, right? So yeah, definitely diving into how they've been and what's been going on. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
Where do we find those questions that you just said for work?
Yeah, so we have them on. Let me see if I can just share it really quick. The majority of you who have access to Trello already, it's on there, right? You know how to find that. But do you already have this? Do you have the Ignite script book with that? There was actually a separate little packet. So for those of you who don't have it, I will get it to you. Just reach out to me afterwards. But yeah, you should have a little separate packet and it has those scripts built into it. One of them is the Ford method. You have it on Trello though. You have access to it. Yeah, on Trello, if you just type in Ford, it will pop up automatically. Yeah, to make it easier for you. So I just want to pause for a second. What are you hearing and what are you learning about prospecting so far? Shiloh.
Oh,
I'm just joking. I'm kidding. I know you just stepped in. Good to see you, man. Is it Viviana? Awesome. That you never stop prospecting. What else?
Be consistent.
Be consistent. Sam?
I was just gonna say your prospecting's always intentional and it's always like specific to the person that you're talking to.
Absolutely. One of the parts as well of the messaging. Let me make sure this part is clear because I didn't get down into this piece. For your messaging, it needs to not only match your market, but you have to make an offer. This is one of the things that most agents kind of skip over. Like, for example, when you're doing the Ford method, you can't just end the conversation, be like, okay, great, see you later. Great talking with you. So you have to make some sort of offer. For some people, let's say I haven't talked to somebody in 8 years and I'm using the Ford method, reconnect. The offer I might make is, hey, I want to be more intentional, Sam, around building my relationships this year. I just want to stay in touch. Is that okay with you? Cool. What is he giving me permission to do? I'm going to call him every quarter. Right? So I still made an offer. For somebody who's like, yeah, we've thought about buying, what offer might I make?
Recommendation for a lender.
Recommendation for a lender. Sending them listings. What is one that's unique to KW that we can send them to help them with the home search process? Our app. You have an individualized and specialized app here at KW, and just to show what that looks like. So you also have a website that's specialized to you. And so when clients, I can send them an app where they're then able to start searching for properties and see everything that's on the MLS directly through here. And so I can say, well, oh, great, that's awesome. Hey, I actually have an app that can really help you guys see what homes are available on the market, and then really just helps you guys to find the right property. So I'd love to send that to you. Is that okay? Great. For a listing, it might be, hey, I totally get it. most people in this area just are unfamiliar with their home is actually worth, because you guys have seen prices have skyrocketed, right? And so what I would love to do is a CMA, a comparable market analysis, so you guys have a very good, clear picture of the value of your home in this market. Is it okay if I send that to you in your email? Great. So you're always making an offer. You have to find out, what offer am I going to make? For some people, it might be, hey, we have Kellerfest coming up. We've rented out Jaker Farms and we want your family to come and enjoy this evening together. Like, that's, you're making an offer, right, tied to your real estate business. So there's so much flexibility, right? With buyers, a home buyer's guide, first time home buyer's guide would be making an offer. The ideal offer is an actual consultation, right? That's great that you're looking to buy a home, Shiloh, in the next 6 months. What I'd love to do is sit down with you and actually show you step by step what that looks like. Does this day or this day work for you? So the thing is as well that there's a direct offer. All those were really direct offers, right? There's also indirect offers, which most of these tie to marketing. Most of the indirect offers are tied to marketing. And then you get the response. Yeah.
What's an example of an indirect offer?
So an indirect offer, does anybody have any of the marketing pieces from our team? By chance, handy? Yeah. Yeah, or on your computer, or I can log into my. Cool. Yeah, that could be one. Yeah, if you have that pulled up, let's pass that around. Is it okay if we pass your computer around? Cool. So market update might be a very good one, where you're providing data, right? As an agent, the biggest thing that you can do for people is educate them about what's happening in the real estate market. So when you're consistently sharing resources as far as what's happening in Utah's market, what's happening in a specific neighborhood, or maybe even a news article where they just talked about how when they're moving the Bluffdale prison, right? And in replacement, they're building quite a bit of different things, right? Housing, parks, and then the mayor even referenced that he's hopeful an NFL team or MLB team would move in there. That's pretty interesting, right? So when I'm sharing that to my network, right, that's an indirect offer. I want to be your go-to person for real estate resources and knowledge and understand what's going on.
So you're not like offering a specific service, you're just like giving that information.
Yep, and guess what? It's going to spark a string where they're like, oh, like I've shared this with the team where I'll have people reach out who will text me and say, hey, I've been thinking about buying a house, would love to have a conversation with you. I haven't actually called them, these specific individuals, but they've seen all the Instagram posts and all these different value adds I've been giving. And so I've indirectly been saying, hey, come work with me. Does that make sense?
Something cool that Rich does.
Let's throw the mic over here. Thank you.
Something cool that Rich does is, wow, that's not. He, not with his SOI, but with his farming methods, he'll print out a market update, and then he'll also include a QR code to his website where they can type in their address and get a free CMA, right?
Yeah.
And so he kind of offers that in just like his door hangers. And so that's also a good leverage point. I tried doing that too with some flyers, just printing out the market update, and on the back it had my contact info with the QR code for a market update. So
Perfect example. So using a QR code as a way to direct them to a value add, right? Of, hey, put in your information and I'll give you a CMA in return.
nobody's going to type in the website.
Right.
Like if you make it easy for them, then it's more likely to happen.
Oops. I think, let's see. So this is an example of one as well. So when they click on what's my home worth, am I talking to them on the phone in this case? No. But I can have basically a link on Facebook or somewhere where it's directing them to this website, and I'm indirectly making an offer for them to be able to get the value of their home just by typing in their address. Mhm. Yeah, the 36 touch is what used to be. Now Gary's saying it's probably closer to like 70 touches that you need, which that's like the Facebook pings, the comments on their Facebook or Instagram posts, the likes, all that kind of stuff adds up probably to about 70 touches a year. Cool. So the question I would ask is, do you want to be a hunter or a farmer? Both. Yes, both. Yes. Here's the important fact, though, is that you need to prioritize one over the other when you're starting your business. Like when I say starting, I don't mean like the first couple months, like the first probably 2 years. Does anybody remember the growth curve for Clay Winder's business? Did anybody catch that? Where he was showing year by year the growth of his business?
It's like year was it 4 or 5? That was like
Just blew up. Yeah.
I mean, he started off. Yeah, I was gonna say he still started off.
Pretty well. Yeah. And so what's going to happen is eventually you kind of shift to being more of a farmer, but up front you've got to hunt. And you've got to be pretty dang focused on hunting while you're planting the seeds. And the reason why is because, as any farmer knows, when do they get to reap the rewards of planting seeds? Harvest time. Does that take a day, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, months to years? Usually, if you're starting in fresh ground, do you know how many years it takes? Like if you're going into an area that has not been farmed before, to get the soil prepared for it, it's usually 2 to 3 years. And so it's really the same, honestly, almost the same exact timeline with real estate. And if you actually ask very successful agents, they'll tell you how long it really took for their business to be very self-sustainable, where the majority they're working on their SOI or past clients. It kind of becomes this machine that feeds itself because they're continually planting seeds with their SOI. But up front, it didn't start that way. For the majority of people, it does not start that way. You have to be actively, proactively hunting for your food, right? So we're gonna watch a little video. It's a little old school, okay? But it's coming from Gary Keller and Jay, and they have some really good insight around why being what we call prospecting-based, marketing enhanced, running your business that way. Okay, you want to be prospecting based and marketing enhanced. That's how you launch your real estate career. So let's watch this. Please take notes on whatever key points or golden nuggets you pick up, and then we'll talk about it right after.
About 6 years ago, we wrote a book, The Millionaire Real Estate Group. We did the research. We came back and we said, here are 4 basic models that will help you determine your highest level of success.
That's right. The lead generation model, the economic model, the budget model, and the organizational model.
In the lead generation
Guys
model,
hear
we
that
said
okay?
that there were two basic approaches to generating leads.
That's right.
Prospecting and marketing.
Mhm.
Okay. The research at that time, 6 years ago, said that you should be marketing based and prospecting enhanced.
That's right.
What do we think about that today, Jay?
You know, most of the research that we're doing today tells us to flip it.
Yeah,
In
it
a
does.
shifted market,
Yeah, it does.
focus on prospecting
It does.
and then enhance it with marketing.
Now, doesn't mean you can't do well at marketing, right?
Oh, it can still be highly effective, but if
Absolutely.
you're prospecting, you understand what actually messages your customers are going to respond to,
Right.
and you put that in your marketing, and it's more effective.
Right. And in my own research on a monthly basis, the agents who are netting the most amount of money are those that are prospecting based and marketing enhanced. I think what we would say going forward, if we were rewriting the Millionaire Real Estate Agent today, is we would say you have prospecting and you have marketing. You need to look at your market and you need to decide which is going to give you your best results. And then if it's a seller market, great, then you're probably marketing based and prospecting enhanced. But if it's a buyer market, you might want to be prospecting.
Prospecting based and marketing enhanced.
I'm not sure that we would absolutely say as a model, you could be the best agent you could be just as a prospector. And I'm not sure that we would say that you could be the best agent you could possibly be, leads-wise and income-wise, just as a marketer. Could we?
No.
It would be tough.
The best results seem to come from a combination.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so then we said, now, if I'm going to go out and generate leads, we laid some basic premises out there, and that was 8 by 8, 12 direct, and 33 touch.
That's right.
Do you think those three concepts are still valid today?
Absolutely. They weren't new when we brought them into the book.
That's right.
The 8 by 8 is about cementing the relationship.
That's right.
Hit them really quickly.
Yep.
The 33 touch is about saturating them over time.
Yeah, that's right.
And a 12 direct is a monthly newsletter. It's about people who haven't met you yet.
Right.
You need mind share with them. When they think of real estate, they think of you.
Here's what changes, and that's the messages, right?
Absolutely.
Your messages matter. You need to make offers to individuals for immediate responses, and you need to make sure your messages match the market. Right.
The people you're talking to and the market conditions you're in.
Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you a quick question. Is it really 8? Is it really 12? And is it 33?
No, they stand for things, right?
Okay. Yeah, there you
8
go.
by 8, cementing.
Okay, so if I could do it in 5, if I could do it in 3, if it took me 12, would that be okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, so 12 direct. Is it really 12 direct, or could it be 10? Could it be 9? Could it be 20?
It's about regularly touching them over time. So they expect it.
That's right.
And they recognize it when it shows up.
So this idea of 33 touches a year wasn't what?
It's overkill.
Well, it's overkill over time is what we said. What you and I discovered is we've interviewed agents where they said, "Hey, I am personally netting $500,000 a year, and I'm only touching people 12 times a year." And our response to that is, that's great. Imagine if you did it 20 times a year or 25 times a year. What we found was that we couldn't find a number that was specific enough for us to say, oh, by the way, the best number is 20, the best number is 25, the best number is 12, the best number is 30, the best number is 40. We found them all over the place, and in the end, we went with a number that we felt was truly overkill over time.
That's right.
The point was you need to be with someone at the moment that they either are going to make a decision or they're in front of someone who's going to make a decision. And you're meaning you're with them, meaning that top of the mind awareness, they're thinking of you.
They're deciding to buy or to refer you to someone who is.
Yes. We also mentioned the concept of METs and haven't met. Has that changed?
No.
No, not at all. No.
There's just two groups of people out there, people you've met and people you haven't.
Yeah, and the thing that we know is that at the basis of most real estate agents' business that are very successful, there's a nice database of METs that they are communicating with, right? They're doing their 33 touch or something like that on a regular basis, right?
Yes, and the more focused they are on having a really tight group of advocates, the more business they get from them.
Yeah, that's right.
So what did we pick up? What did you catch in that short clip?
The specific number doesn't matter. It's the intention.
And the consistency. The consistency is the key. What else? Sam?
At the end, you said you want a tight group of advocates. You want people that like really trust what you do.
Absolutely. You want to create a group of advocates. I have an example of this. This past month for August, I had five closings that came from one person. As far as it was their referrals or themselves. So I had 2 closings with them directly and then 3 other referrals that came from them that all closed last month, $74,000 in commissions. And it was because of the level of trust that I built with that person over the last, it's been about 4 years. And so one of the biggest keys when you are prospecting, when you're being really proactive around your message that you're delivering to people, you start to create these people who are raving fans for your business. And that is the biggest key to leverage, is if you can create raving fans. There's actually a book called that. I don't know if you guys have read it, but it's how do you build instead of you being the only voice for your business, how do you build advocates, other people who are willing to share when they have a friend or a family member or cousin who's like, yeah, we thought about moving up to your area, up to Orem. Like, I know the guy you need to talk to or the person you need to talk to. It's called, creating raving fans. So what does that actually require? Well, it requires for them to have an over-the-top experience from you. That's where the 33 touch comes in, is we feel like if you're properly, or 36 touch, that was, again, a long time ago. So then it was upgraded to 36 touches. Now it's 70 touches. Okay, because again, you have social media where you're able to like their comment, go post for their birthday, hey, happy birthday, have a great week, stuff like that. So all of those pings total should be somewhere between that 36 to 70 range. Okay. Christmas cards, all that kind of stuff. So why do you think it's better to be prospecting based and marketing enhanced and not the other way around? More personal? Definitely more personal, right? Because if you're posting first time home buyer's guide on Facebook, everybody's seeing that, right? And they may not be first time home buyers. It's a little hard to create that messaging specific for every person that's looking at it, right? Garrett? Yeah. Travis?
Marketing, you can only control so much that goes into it, who sees it and everything. Prospecting, you can control how hard you work.
I think also, it's like it says, it's very money intensive. I feel like prospecting is more time intensive. So like when you're first starting out, you obviously aren't loaded, right? You're not making 6 figures in your business. You don't have the money to be dumping $50,000 a year into marketing. So it's like, to really do it effectively to where it is bringing in a ton of business at the beginning, we just don't have those resources. And so when you prospect and then earn that money and then dump it into marketing, it really does just enhance that experience.
Yeah, that's another big piece of it as well, is that marketing is more costly. And here's the statistic in the MREA, is that it will take you basically a 50-to-1 ratio when you are connecting with the unmets, the people that you don't know, to convert them into a sale. Does anybody know the stat for people that are your Mets, people that you do know if you're nurturing them, the people in your SOI, what the conversion rate is? 12-to-2. It's a pretty big gap, right? And so the question is, well, where would you want to invest your time, knowing if you're going to get a 50-to-1 return or a 12-to-2 return? All right. So prospecting to your SOI is one of the greatest keys when you're starting your business. So if you can build a database of 200 to 300 contacts, which everybody, let's look at this really quick. Pull out your phone. And if you have an iPhone, go ahead and click contacts. And on the right-hand side, you're going to see the letter Z. There's a little scroll bar. Go all the way to the bottom. So press Z. And it should show you how many contacts are there. If you're on an Android, you might have to open Google Contacts if you have that app, and it will show you. So let's see who has the highest amount in here. How many?
2,937.
Jeez. She did beat me. Man, that's a lot of people. It's a big business. You have how many? 200. Is anybody else over 1,000?
I had over 1,000 last time you asked us that,
Uh-huh.
but Rick's
Cleaned it up?
And now I have 700.
Okay, okay. So, so how many people does it say that you should start with in the MREA to build a good business? 200. Nothing crazy. It's really not. And then on top of that, they say, well, if you can make it a goal to add 3 to 10 people every single day, you're going to build a very strong database that you can build a 6-figure and multiple 6-figure business off of. But 200 worked properly will bring 6 figures in this space. All 200 of them, though, have to be on a 33 or 36 touch campaign. They all have to be interacted with very heavily for you to be able to draw the right amount of business out of there.
Well, I just did like some quick crunching. If you did that, if you did 2 contacts a day, just 2, for an entire year, and that's 5 days a week, not 7 days a week, you would have over 500 contacts in your database.
Very quick, 1 year.
And I think of what's her name? The one girl that did Powerhouse Moms.
Angie Fisher.
No, she participated in like
Ooh,
she was
there's a lot of them. So
prospected for 7 hours a day. Was the highest netting Tori.
Yeah.
Yeah. She worked her butt
Did
off
door
her
knocking.
first year,
right?
cold
Wasn't she doing
calling and door knocking.
Yeah.
And then she didn't have to really be as prospecting based. It was more marketing enhanced after that.
Yeah.
So
Work as hard.
Here's a principle that I want to share. I know this isn't part of the Ignite curriculum, but this has been a tried and true principle that I've learned throughout life. Is you have to consciously make this decision. You do not get to choose in life to not pay the price. You have to pay the price. You either get to pay the price now or you get to pay the price later. And in this industry, some people choose, I don't want to be uncomfortable and call people my SOI. Like it's awkward. I don't want to knock doors. I don't want to cold call people that I don't know. It's uncomfortable. But guess how those individuals pay the price down the road? By exiting the industry. That's how they pay the price. They don't get what they thought they could in this industry because they didn't pay the price of being uncomfortable. You got to get outside your comfort zone. And that's really what prospecting is you've got to put yourself in those uncomfortable situations, building the relationships. That's where it all starts. It will evolve. Your business will evolve. Peter Morkel gets calls consistently every week. Peter, I need to list my house. He's been in it for 15 years. He's earned that. He paid the price up front. Clay, he paid the price up front. And now they're doing 500 transactions this year with RedSign. But it didn't start out that way. So that's one of the biggest encouragements I can give you is decide to pay the price. You got to make that decision now of, hey, I will pay the price through prospecting and through reaching out to people, building the relationships. So that way I can get the payoff later in this industry, which anybody can earn, but very few do because they don't stay in it long enough for things to pop. So be prospecting based, marketing enhanced. Marketing costs money, it's intensive or money intensive, it's passive, it's long-term results. With prospecting, it's time intensive, proactive, and you get immediate results. That's where you're going to find the people when you do the Ford method. I literally had this, this was probably 3 months into my career. And I called somebody who I have not talked to. I actually messaged him on Facebook first because I didn't have his phone number. And I said, hey, Scott, we weren't like really good friends in high school. It's just we were acquainted. We had similar friends. And I was like, hey, Scott, it's been almost a decade. Would love to jump on a phone call and catch up. That's all I said on Facebook. He's like, yeah, man, anytime. Here's my phone number. I called him. I went through the Ford method. And I was like, well, what are you doing for work? And he was in software sales, and he goes on about what he's doing. And he's like, well, what about you? Are you still doing door-to-door sales? And I said, no, actually, I transitioned into real estate. And this is what I do now. And give him a little breakdown. And he's like, oh, I'm actually looking for an investment property. Say, oh, great. I'd love to sit down with you and show you what that process looks like. Within 30 days, we had him under contract on an investment property. And it was somebody I had not talked to, literally not had any conversation with or connection with for 10 years. And so that's why prospecting brings you those immediate results. Because when you're having a conversation, people are naturally going to say, oh, I'm looking to buy, or I'm looking to invest, or I'm looking to sell. And then that gives you the opportunity to set up an appointment. So when you're starting off, prospecting is so key for your business. So let's look at prospecting methods. And if you actually flip to page 4 in your guide, it has this list. So there's a large variety of prospecting methods. And this diagram, I'm about to show you the full page, but this is in the MREA as well. So you can always refer back to it. It actually has an entire chapter that just dives in on all these different methods. So I just want to get some shares really quick on people who've been in the industry for more than, let's say, 3 months. What are some of the prospecting methods you've used and just your experience with that method?
I've done a lot with SOI. If I had a massive network, that is all I would do because I love doing it. But I'm not from this state or this area, even from the state, but I've still had some success with it. And so every transaction I've had so far has been SOI, just out of the 2 or 3 relationships I have down here.
And just for those who have not been to the Spark series, which explains what sphere of influence is, or SOI, that's your sphere of influence. It's people that know, like, and trust you already. Okay. So it might be past coworkers, family members, friends, acquaintances, people you've gone to church with, people you've worked with in the past, like all those kind of individuals are your sphere of influence. So just when we reference SOI, you know what it is. Thank you for sharing that. Travis.
I've kind of done it all, dipped my line in all the waters, but yeah, I'm from California, so I don't have a big SOI sphere of influence here. No family here, hardly any friends. All my friends moved back to California after college. So I've done door knocking. I've done months of cold calling. And the only things I've had under contract have been from like church and stuff. So I guess it is sphere of influence, just meeting other people. So it doesn't really matter how you meet them. It's just become friends with them and then make them your sphere of influence. If they're cold, like you get them from cold calling, invite them to the event we have, you know, and then they'll become your sphere of influence. They'll become those people that you reach out to. And so that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's helpful.
Absolutely. And I love that you highlighted everybody you currently know today that you would reference as sphere of influence once was not, beside your family. Like all these people at one time were a stranger. So you've got to get in the business of building new relationships, of making new friends and adding them to your sphere of influence.
I'm not like trying to speak in behalf of Craig, but he's not here, but he's done heavy door knocking because he came from door to door.
Yeah.
And that's all he does because he has no SOI here or sphere of influence. And so he's got his first listing and a few buyers from door knocking alone.
Yeah. So Craig got his first listing 3 weeks into the business through just pounding doors, just knocking doors and meeting people. And one of the people that he met, he was not prepared for this either. He'll tell you the story, but he's like, yeah, you know, he went in with his pitch and they're like, oh, we actually need to sell our house. And he was like, okay, I can come back and do a listing appointment. He ended up taking that listing. But he was literally just out introducing himself as the local real estate agent. Actively prospecting through door knocking. What other methods has anybody in here used? Open houses,
Social media,
social media. Great. How do you use that?
very strategically. So I hired a coach and we do his 3-2-1 method where you do 3 personal posts, 2 value posts, and then a business post.
Mm. And I know you're doing a lot of that as well. You're actually, Stetson's teaching a class today around that, leveraging social media.
Just to kind of piggyback on that, social media is probably the #1 prospecting source for me right now too. And I think it's because no one really calls each other anymore. At least if you're in your early 20s, no one makes phone calls anymore, but you can DM them, you can, I don't know, comment on their posts, and then they see that. And then in the DMs, I mean, it's happened 10 times in the past 2 months. Like, oh, what's the real estate market like? So yeah, social media is so good.
And we'll go to Garrett next. And one thing about that is the thing I liked is you're personally messaging them, right? So that's where it's the direct message is the part of the prospecting, right? It's being very direct and having a conversation. That's working.
Just to go along with the social media, like I'm talking to a friend right now that I haven't talked to in years, and we have a common interest. I cook barbecue professionally, and he hit me up for advice on barbecue. And all of a sudden, we're in a conversation about how his dad just died and his mom just got the last balloon payment and she wants to invest it. I'm like, with your dad, we can talk about that anytime. And they're just eager to get into it. So social media, just random conversations, just conversate with your SOI and it just happens.
Yeah. Stetson, last comment. And then we'll
Yeah,
move on.
sorry.
You're good.
I think social media is a great balance between marketing and prospecting, because you can market yourself to the point of everybody knows you're in real estate, right? And then you create posts that, and I'm going to go over a lot of this in the class that I'm teaching today, but you create posts that get engagement, and then you message everybody that engages in those posts because you know they have some interest, and that is technically prospecting your SOI, right?
For sure. And that's one of the things that will be taught in the marketing class, which is that social media is heavily used for marketing, but you can use that as a prospecting method, but it takes you being proactive in that format, right? So you actually messaging people directly. And especially when they're engaging on your post, if you do some sort of Instagram or some sort of real estate related post, and then you're messaging them directly, or even if it's not a real estate related post, but they're engaging with them and then saying, hey, I'd love to jump on a phone call and reconnect. Right? Because there's a lot of people on your Facebook that you might not have cell phone numbers for. And so it's very easy to say, hey, they might have liked a travel post that you did where you and your family went on vacation. You're like, hey, James, man, it's been a long time. Just realized how long it's been. Would love to jump on a phone call with you. And use that as a opportunity to rekindle relationships. So here's the question. How do you guys think it's best to approach selecting a prospecting method? Should you choose just one, go all in on that? Should you choose a few? Try them all. The Baskin Robbins approach, try all 31 flavors. I like that. What you will actually do is what you should do. I think the perspective of one, looking through this and see which one you are actually going to do. If you put it on your calendar, what would you be able to do consistently? If you're that person's like, hey, I would rather eat bugs than knock doors, you probably shouldn't put door knocking on your prospecting plan. Right? But what I will say as well is that you should have 2 to 4 different methods that you're using to prospect. Okay. You don't want to have just only one avenue. but you also don't want to spread yourself too thin where you're trying 10 different routes and then you can actually become a master of your prospecting methods. Yeah.
I say this like from personally, I struggle with this, but also like don't be careful to not cover up a prospecting method with, oh, I won't actually do that to, I guess don't mask that up with the fact of you're just uncomfortable doing that, right? Because you obviously still need to be prospecting, but if you won't actually do any form of prospecting, then you're not going to thrive in the business. And so I think that's been an issue for me is like, I tell myself, oh, I'm not effective at door knocking, but really it's just, no, I'd rather not, instead of just buckling down and doing something that, you know, paying the price up front instead of paying it later.
If you don't do it long enough to.
So these are the 3 methods that I chose. I selected early on. These have actually been the only methods I've used. I haven't, even though I did door knocking for 7.5 years, I built large teams in that space, and it was a great experience for me. I still teach individuals who want to use that method how to properly door knock and how to use that as a very efficient way to prospect. But for me, I went and decided up front, well, what do I want to be doing for the next 30 years? Like if I personally, this is how I went about it. You can totally look at this in different perspective and say like, well, I'd actually like to start with something and then adapt that down the road. But for me, I said, well, I actually love building relationships. I love building new friendships or deepening my relationships that I have. I also personally am an investor. That's how I got into the real estate space. And I love having that conversation. I actually feel like investing in real estate is kind of like playing the board game Monopoly, just at scale. And the difference is that everybody can win. And so for me, I loved having that conversation, working with investors, helping them to see the big picture of how they can build their family's financial wealth through real estate. And I also love this kind of format of education, right? Where I'm teaching people about real estate, whether that's a first-time home buyer, of how the process looks for them getting into their first home, or an investor class where I can teach them how to actually get started with real estate investing or scale their portfolio, right? How do they go bigger and get 50 doors or 100 doors in their portfolio? And so for me, I chose these 3 methods and then crafted my message and my method of how I was going to actually communicate that to these individuals. And so sphere of influence, that's just straight up phone calls, making sure I'm doing my quarterly calls, making sure they get an email newsletter, making sure that for those who own a home, I've set them up on something called a neighborhood nurture, which means every month they actually get an email that shows them all the homes that are for sale in their area. So basically gives them an updated kind of free CMA on the value of properties in their neighborhood. So they get that automatically. The newsletter is more specific to education, right? Telling them what's happening in Utah's market, telling them the market stats of how much appreciation we've seen over the last 12 months, or about the new event center that's going in down the street, stuff like that. That's what the newsletters are for. And then making sure I'm inviting them to events, having them be able to come to either a movie night. For Halloween last year, even though we had COVID going on, we were able to rent out. Cinemark was doing, you can rent out the entire theater for $100. You can only put 20 people in there. They were limited. And so we did that for a couple nights straight, where we just have 20 people rolling through, and we actually liked it that way because it was more intimate, where we can actually talk with everybody afterwards without it feeling like we had 300 clients at one event, where it's a little tougher to do that. But doing these events where we're bringing our sphere of influence in and getting them to connect with each other, one, but then also being able to just provide a nice experience for them. Jakers Farms, this event that we're doing with Kellerfest, is a great way to do that as well. Saying, hey, we'd love for your family to come and have this fun night out, right? So all of those different methods is how I interact with my SOI. With my investors, a little bit different. I kind of take more of a mastermind approach for them. And so trying to connect them to each other, but then also educate them on different creative strategies to grow their real estate portfolio. And also making sure that I stay up to date. I'm going to really quick show you on command. So Jake Bowers, came to me during a training earlier on this year. And this was in March, I believe. And he's like, look at these properties that just hit the market in AF. And it was a builder, Blake Miller Homes, which is a custom builder, and they were doing their first spec home development. And in the notes, this is like late March when like the market was getting pretty nuts, and you'd see 10, 15 offers on a home. And then also you were seeing builders were shutting off the opportunity for investors. Like if you went to Edge or you went to Keystone, like some of these investors, not Edge actually, they allowed you to still do it, but Oakwood Homes, Keystone Homes, Arrive, they're saying, we're not selling to investors. Like we're in a housing crisis right now where normal buyers are getting smashed by investors. So they can't buy. So we're not selling to investors. But Blake Miller, they put on their listing, they're like, hey, investor friendly. And then they also said, for that specific development, they're like, we're not doing highest and best, we're doing first come, first serve. They put that on the MLS listing. And I was like, that's perfect. Like we don't have to compete, right? So what I did is opened up my database. And for those of you who are new to Command, this is really the most efficient tool you can use to interact with the people that are in your database. So the first thing I did, I had already organized this up front, but I went on and clicked investors. And then as you see over here, it filters it to the 53 investors in my network. And so I started making phone calls. And they were listed at 525 up to 540, depending on the specific lot. So they had lot premiums. And I got 3 of them under contract in 1 hour. 1.5 million in volume in an hour. But it was only because one, I had defined the messaging, the method I was going to use, and I had very well organized the database. So I'd done some steps up front that allowed that leverage to take place. Okay. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with this, we're going to be teaching this as part of the Ignite program. So you're going to learn how to interact with Ignite, or excuse me, with Command. But it's all about getting very clear about what methods are you going to feel most, now I wouldn't say most comfortable with utilizing, because I still to this day, even though I've knocked 10,000 doors, do not like going and knocking doors. Okay. I don't get comfortable saying, oh yeah, it's gonna be a nice walk in the park today, knocking on people's doors, talking to random strangers. But I do like building relationships. So once that initial ice is broken and like I start talking, I'm like, oh, this person's awesome. Like, I'm so glad that I knocked on their door. That happens after the fact. But beforehand, there's a lot of unknown of like, how are they going to respond? And what are they going to throw at me? All that kind of stuff. So what I would say is choosing your prospecting method up front, identify what you will actually do. And then go down that path and see if you actually enjoy doing it and if you're willing to continue doing it. Okay. If you try something, you're like, I absolutely hate this, I dread going to work every day to do this, probably not a method to choose. See, for me, I didn't like the initial part of knocking doors, but I love the reward. I love that walking out of somebody's home after a sale, like that was awesome. Like I made a new friend, wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be going into the day. So you want to look at which method are you going to use. So let's just break a few of these down. Key relationships. I want to skip to this one. Builders is a great one in this space. Why? What is our market like here in Utah right now? It's a lot of new construction compared to other states. Okay. We, over the next decade, are going to build so many homes to support the growth that Utah is going to see. So what happens if you develop a relationship with a builder over the next 2-3 years? Travis.
Okay. So, I mean, just over the past 3 months, this has happened with me. We put one under contract with this one builder or builder's agent, and then he's already reached out to me 3-4 times saying, hey, I've limited investor spots because we put one under contract with an investor. I've limited on investor spots in this community. you're the first one to hear about it. So they kind of get you on their A team as
Yeah.
their agent to go to when they're looking for people to buy, and it just works out to your advantage.
Yep. There's one builder, Keystone. If you've been to their product, it's an amazing product. They have townhomes, condos, houses they're building in American Fork right across from Cinemark. And I helped a couple clients in December of 2019 start buying with them. And they were doing a process at that point where they said, hey, if you have 2 clients buy with us, at least 2, from there forward, we'll pay a 4% commission. Pretty amazing, right? So on top of that, their agents almost become your partner. It's a little bit different than looking at like, hey, I'm a buyer's agent, I'm working with this listing agent, and you're kind of like, even though you're working together on that transaction, you're not really on the same team. It's a little bit different when you're working with the buyers, with a buyer's agent, or sorry, a listing agent for a builder. Okay. They really step in and do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. They provide a lot of leverage because they take care of most of the process. Yeah.
What is your offer when you're talking to certain like builders?
Builders?
What are they looking for? What's
Yeah,
offer that they
love
look
it.
for?
So the funny thing is, it's actually the opposite. They're actually trying to make an offer to you because they know you have the buyers and they want you to bring them to their community. So what happens is you actually walk through their model homes. As soon as you get there, you tell them you're an agent, and they're going to just tell you everything great about their community, trying to sell you on why you should bring your clients to their community. So what you should actually do is, for a Saturday or during the week, go tour different new build communities and say, hey, I'm a licensed agent. I'd love to bring some clients into your community. Can you tell me a little bit about the highlights of your community? And they're going to know what to do from there. They're trained in that process. And so they're going to walk you around, point out the different homes that are available, tell you how their process works, tell you how simple and easy they're going to make your life when you bring a buyer into their community. And they're going to give you, most likely as well, they're going to give you the opportunity to get on basically a hot sheet, where every week or every 2 weeks when they release new inventory, they're going to send it right to your email. That stuff doesn't, I would say 60% of the time does not show up on the MLS. That's the benefit as well. When we say we don't have inventory, builders usually have some inventory. And so if you're working with them directly, you're getting all this inventory right to your email, where your family members, your friends, they're not seeing that on the MLS. They can't find that on Zillow. So that gives you an advantage as well when you have that relationship built. Garrett, were you going to say something? Richmond, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So, and there's plenty of communities out there that literally just walk into, they have one of their listing agents just sitting in there waiting to talk to obviously clients, people who are looking to buy, but then also agents who want to kind of build a relationship with the builders. So that's one I like. Teaching and speaking opportunities. Stetson, you came into the industry and right away, right, went to doing classes, offering classes to your sphere of influence. And what that does is really builds up. You can do, first-time home buyers seminars. You can do how to list your home in this market seminar, or investor seminars. You can do so many different little classes, right, workshops. And that's a great way to provide value and educate people. Okay, that's a prospecting method that you can use. Networking events is another one. There's, BNI groups that are usually tough to get into as a realtor because there's so many agents, so many real estate agents. And so usually they have a real estate agent as part of them already, a business networking group. And so, but networking events, that's a great way as well to prospect.
Well, and they mentioned this in, I think it was in Mega Camp, of kind of getting into the referral network. Like, you don't necessarily need to be a part of one of those groups to be in that referral network or
Right,
referral group, right? Like, reach out to a bunch of vendors. So plumbers, contractors, electricians that are in the area, just say, hey, I'll give you a referral a year if you'll give me one. And if you reach out to 50 different vendors, you're getting, I mean, potentially 50 referrals a year that way.
So let me try and pull this up, see if it will load. One of the unique ones on here as well, like just to show you how creative you can get with your prospecting methods, is charity or volunteer work, community outreach. Okay, is an amazing avenue. Does anybody know Lane Thompson? Okay, so who was at team meeting for Dahlia's Hope? People. Okay, so a lot of Lane's business comes from his SOI's view of how impactful he is from the charity perspective. Like a lot of his work or a lot of his business is built around the charity work that he does. And so, oh, there we go. Let me see where he's at this year. So he's at 25 million in volume right now, year to date. Not a bad business, right? And so he is one of the really good advocates of just building a solid community, right? And so he calls his SOI, his part of his quarterly calls is calling them and telling them about a charity event that he's a part of and asking if they want to donate time or money and help with that cause. And guess what a byproduct is? Oh, by the way, I sell real estate. He doesn't lead with that though. He leads with this impact, and then people naturally want to use them for the real estate side. And he's at 25 million in business right now. So all of these methods work. Every one of these methods in the MREA, somebody is making 6 figures off of doing one of these methods. So it's not a thing of which one's better. It's just which one are you going to do consistently? Which one are you going to commit to mastery of? It's open houses. Another good one, for example, is Cindy Yates right here. So she moved from Washington or Seattle, Washington or Oregon. And can't remember which one it was, but this was about 3 years ago. And Cindy, when she moved here, was in the same boat as some people where she did not have an SOI. She didn't have people to connect with up front. So she started farming. Okay. So she started picking these specific neighborhoods that she was going to market to consistently. And she's been doing that for the past 3 years. And so she was doing farming in as her marketing piece, and then open houses. All she would do is open houses as prospecting. And now today we label her as the queen of open houses. She crushes them, but she's today at 6 million in volume, which is about $200,000 in income, just through open houses. She's built relationships over the last 3 years and has now created an SOI, a sphere of influence, but in a very short period of time, just because she's like, I'm going to master open houses. And if you have the opportunity to go to her open house class or watch it online, it's phenomenal, because she'll share things about how to master an open house that most people wouldn't even think of. That's pretty amazing. Okay. So again, selecting your method that you're going to commit to and that you're going to really double down on is the key. Then you've got marketing and you've got items that are both that are in the middle. And this is the specific diagram that's in the MREA. You can go find. And I believe it's in your, yeah, it's in your guide as well. Okay. So upfront, when you're starting your business, you want to deep dive into, again, 2 to 4 different methods. Okay, you want to go all in on those methods. And as we've talked about the 80-20 rule, What is the 80-20 rule? So 80-20 rule is that 80% of your results will come from 20% of your actions. But I want to give you a different perspective today. That the 80-20 rule should also be that 80% of your time each week should be focused on your top 20% prospecting methods you're going to use. 80% of your time. So really quick, if we were just to take out a calculator and say, well, you're going to work 40 hours a week, how many hours should be spent on prospecting? $32 hours. And some people might feel like, oh, that's a lot more than I'm doing today. But here's the thing is, in order for you to become a master at your prospecting method, you've got to put a ton of hours up front. And the other 20% of your time is what's focused on the running the business, right? But up front, you've got to focus on prospecting, of making sure you're connecting with your clients and you're nurturing your clients. And I will say, when you're first starting, you can break that down a little bit further and say that, well, of that 80%, because this is income producing activities, part of that upfront is this, like what we're doing today, right? Because if you're doing something inefficiently, like if you're practicing the wrong way over time, is it going to get you the results you want? No. And so that's why part of, the education process, or part of mastery, is learning, right? Learning from the Clay Winders, learning from the Lane Thompsons, from the Cindy Yates, about how have the people that are 3 years ahead of me doing this right now. So part of that 80% up front is learning as well, right? Learning and then action, prospecting. But at Angie Fisher, if you looked at her schedule, the majority of her work is prospecting. Prospecting also includes appointments. So when you say, hey, I'd love to sit down and show you what it looks like to sell your home in this market, preparing for that and actually going and taking that listing appointment, that's a part of your prospecting. So it's not just 32 hours straight of phone calls. Does that make sense? But it could be. If you're Brandon Peterson. Okay, so raise your hand really quick if you have used any of these specific prospecting methods so far. You've learned well. These up front can give you the most leverage as you're just starting out. Now, one of the substitutions for this one, I want to say, because door knocking is it is a skill set you have to spend a lot of hours practicing and developing. But one of the ways to get even a higher boost out of this is through what we call pop buys. Okay. And Peter Morkel does a phenomenal class around this. Pop buys is you going and knocking on the doors of people that you do know. And you're strategic about it. You leave your car door open. You leave your car on the road, not in the driveway. And you see, and you put it in a place where from their front door, they can see your car is on, the door's open, which means what? You're not there to come in and sit on their couch. Okay. You want to be very intentional with this. And it's, hey, I was actually just showing a home down the street and realize it's been freaking 3 months since I talked to you guys. So when I was driving by, I was like, "Burp," wanted to stop and just say hi, see how you guys were doing. What's new? Guess what they're going to do? With that story I just told them, are they going to feel like it's awkward? Not at all.
Does he give something to him?
So, yeah, so the pop by, you want to leave something, but you don't want to act like you planned this, right? Yeah, so he leaves it in the car. He's like, great. Well, hey, if you guys need anything, like, reach out. I want to stay connected. And if you guys need anything, just give me a call. Okay, sound good? And then he intentionally, this is the key, okay? As soon as you're trying to be like, oh, hey, actually, let me grab something for you really quick. That's when you run to your car. And you grab a market snapshot, you grab a little, package where it might have Rich Cope did this, where he bought a bunch of $1 Redbox movie rental things, like they're little tickets, coupon codes. They cost him, I think, $1. And he put those inside of a little plastic bag and had something, I can't remember what it said exactly, but it was like movie on Rich Cope, real estate, whatever it was. And had that in this little baggie. He's like, hey, here, want to give this to you guys. Have a movie on me. You guys have a great weekend, right? And then left. What does that do for a person after that simple 5-minute experience? Yeah, I feel special for $1. Not too expensive, especially if you look at your SY. If you have 200 people in your SY, that could be a very high return on investment. If you did that to 200 people, you're bound to have somebody who's like, oh, hey, actually, I have a real estate need. Out of 200 people that you knock the door on that know you, you might find somebody who's looking to do real estate. And the key is, hey, I was just showing a house, or I was just walking through a home, or I was just, whatever it may be. You're out there real estate related, right? So you're able to ping them, put that real estate seed, plant that seed.
At least with my door knocking efforts, something I've been able to do to make it not as exhausting mentally and physically is to be doing it with a purpose. So whether it's a pop by, just to a friend or whatever, or whether it's for an open house or inviting them to a seminar, just make sure that you're knocking with a purpose. That way it's not showing up on their doorstep, real sales pitchy. Hey, do you know of any of your neighbors or you that's selling your house?
Right.
Selling a house? And they get pissed off and throw you off their porch, basically. Yeah. But that's just something that for me personally has made it more enjoyable. And it's not an aggressive sales approach. It's, hey, I'm inviting you to something. Come check it out.
Yeah. Hopefully you've noticed today that stories sell. Stories do the heavy lifting for you. And so as you've noticed these different prospecting methods I've shared so far, it's all about you coming up with a storyline first. So before I go knock on a person's door, I created the storyline of I was just in the neighborhood, saw, was walking through a home, and I realized how long it's been since I've talked to you. So I wanted to stop by and check in. How are you doing? So that story that I just presented makes a big difference on the outcome. If it was like, hey, I just took a listing and I wanted to see if you guys actually wanted to see the value of your home and sell your home potentially, that was how I led the conversation, it's gonna be a very different outcome, right? Very different response. So just start thinking about that ahead of time. Whatever message you're gonna be selling or sharing, what response am I gonna get from this? I promise you are very intelligent and you're gonna find that you're gonna be like, you know what? If I was approached that way, it wouldn't jive very well. So that's not the story I'm gonna share. Let me think of a better story.
With my first listing, so I was originally knocking the whole neighborhood for the open house, just inviting people. And I got a lot of really friendly people. There were some that were even inviting me into their door to talk with them for a minute and everything. And then after I got the house under contract, I was like, well, I'll keep knocking the area because I've already been going at it. And my door approach changed from the invitation to, yeah, are any of your neighbors or have you heard of anybody in the area that's thinking of selling? And the same neighborhood, but a totally different outcome in just the conversations I was having. People were very defensive, angry that I was there. It was a whole different attitude just off the conversation I had.
Yeah. So just some quick techniques around door knocking, because that can be a very, again, effective method. One of the reasons why I like door knocking over cold calling personally is because you do have the human element of body language, which is such an important key with communication, effective communication and persuasion, is being able to see somebody's facial gestures, see the smile, all that stuff influences people in a better light than what you can do over a phone call. So with door knocking, just these, if you turn to page 5, there's really just 4 keys that you need to remember. It's the approach, the act, the ask, and the advance. So with the approach, again, it's that story. What is the script? A lot of people call them scripts. I call them stories. So what story or what script are you going to use when contacting somebody you've never met? And then what script or story are you going to use when you're knocking on somebody who you have met and you do know? Those stories are going to be slightly different, right? Some of the technique is you don't want to be squared up if you're going to knock doors. So I don't want to knock and be like this, right by the door. When Scott answers, why?
It's awkward, personal space.
You can actually, I can feel your energy right now is already a little bit more awkward than when I was standing back here, right? And it's confrontational when you're squared up. So be back, hang your weight on the back foot, and also be sideways. Don't be squared up at the door, okay? And also one of the biggest things is smile. Like when the person opens the door, smile at them, okay? One of the quickest ways, this is a ninja tip, to gain trust, okay? Anybody want to guess what I'm going to say? Is there any door knockers in here? It's a name drop.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. It's to share the name of somebody in that area that you've talked to. So this happens after you've talked to somebody, right? Or maybe you know, maybe it's one of your listings, actually, is a great way to do it. So it's like, hey, I was actually just talking to John Frampton. I don't know if you've met John just down the street. What does that do?
You're not.
Yeah.
You know somebody.
It's called a transfer of trust. Okay. One of the greatest leverage points you can use is just by you using that person's name and going about it in a very, what I try to do is make it as personal as possible. So it's like, hey, I was just talking to John Frampton. You may know him. He's the one with the dog that has the one eye. Why do I do that? Go into that detail. Yeah. And what does that require me to do when I'm talking with John Frampton? I've got to be very intentional around like picking up data, right? And if you aren't able to collect enough information, use his car that he has in the driveway. He's the one that drives the big red truck you may have seen. And you'll notice I'm always doing this. You know John Frampton. Smile, nod your head. And guess what everybody else is doing? Look what Karen's doing. Nod your head. Okay. So it's a part of the influential process, right? Is using your body language to persuade people.
That's right. That's no. So
Yeah.
you feel comfortable.
Totally. Travis, you
Something
guys see
that's
how I practiced this on you before?
yeah. We joke around with it. Something that's funny. I have a farm up in Lehigh that I door knock. Almost everybody knows me there, but it's funny that here in Utah, there's a lot of door knockers, a lot of people that do summer sales and stuff. And so I've done this process multiple times, and I show up to this one guy's house and he's like, I know exactly everything you did. You just name dropped. You just did all this. He literally went by the book and told me you just did this. And he's like, but you know what? It worked. Like I gave you my information. You have all my information. So, and so he's in my database now, but he like literally, he realized that I did it and I still got his information. It was funny. So
Yeah.
It works 100%.
and we'll breeze through these next ones, but you want to actively listen. Again, that's collecting relevant information to know how you can support that person. Your whole goal should be contribution, should be how can I serve this individual? And so coming from a place of contribution is one of the greatest keys to building that relationship. And so asking questions, right, of what you can do, what you can give them that's going to be valuable for them. The next one is asking for the business. So Travis, what did you just mention? You have that individual in your database now, which means what?
I can call him, I can text him, I can email him.
So you asked for his information. Okay. So he met a stranger, got his phone number, got his email. Cindy Yates is another great example of this. She is the queen of gas stations, okay, where she will go and purposefully poach people at gas stations. And let me just show you how simple it is. So I met Scott or Sam at a grocery store, and we were in line walking together while I was ready to check out, and we were having a conversation. I was like, "What do you do for work?"
I work at a firefighting equipment company.
Wow, that's rare.
Yeah,
I haven't heard that one before. That's cool. Awesome, man. Cool. How long you been doing that for?
about 18 months.
Cool. I'm gonna fast forward for time. Perfect, man. Well, hey, I've got to check out, but it was great talking with you. Hey, let's stay connected. What's your phone number?
385-329.
Cool. What did I do? Body language wise. Looked at my phone. Waiting for the numbers. I act like it's a normal process. Everybody does it. It's a given, right? And it's natural and normal the way I do it. Hey, man, let's stay connected. It's great talking with you. What's your phone number? Now, are there going to be the 1 out of 10 people who are like, I don't want to give a stranger my phone number. It's a stranger asking, trying to give me candy situation, right? But I promise it doesn't happen as often as you think. More often than not, people will give you their information. So be purposeful around collecting information, phone number, emails. That's the only way you're going to be able to interact with them moving forward. I had this happen maybe a month ago. I was tinting my windows on my car and sitting at the dealership waiting for it to be done. And there was another guy who was in software sales, and we were just having a conversation. And he actually sparked it up. He was like very talkative. And so he sparked the conversation, and we talked for probably 10 minutes, and they're like, hey, your car's done for him. I had to still wait. I was like, hey man, it was great talking with you. We should stay connected. What's your email and phone number? And he gave it to me after 10-minute phone or conversation at a car dealership. So it's like, look for those ways of how you can just add that line. Don't overcomplicate it on how can I collect phone numbers and emails. It's literally just asking for it.
I do that all the time. I always tell people I feel like we're friends.
Yeah.
So that's just would be perfect. to just do that.
It's natural, normal.
Okay, so but I have a friend that's a real estate agent where I used to work, and so you tell me what you think of this. And so anyway, she said she went into 7-Eleven and she said, hey, to the people that work there, hey, I promise I can't remember what she said, teacher, mentor, something, that I give out cards today. So here's my card or something. I can't remember exactly. How she did it. And so she gave the card, and they're like, oh, you're a real estate agent. And she got two, because they were looking for investment property. So she got 2 people out of, it was her and her.
Yeah. I think the saying is there's 100 ways to skin a cat, something like that, right? My wife would not approve of that message. But yes, what I would challenge is how do you want to maintain control of the relationship?
So you
When-
didn't get any information. But
Yeah, I personally don't do business cards at all. I do have a digital card actually. So what happens is if somebody says, do you have a card? I have a digital card and say, yeah, let me send it to you. What's your phone number? And I text them, and it has my Facebook, my Instagram, my phone number, my email, everything is attached to that digital card. But what does that give me the opportunity to do? Get their information. So I like personally having the ball in my court by getting the information, but
that makes sense,
still,
though.
yeah.
I do the same thing at open houses. I don't do a sign-in sheet either anymore because I can just say, oh, I left all the house stats on the printer at my office. What's your phone number? I'll text it to you. And so instead of like wondering, oh, are they going to sign in or not? I asked them to, but they didn't. Like you automatically have their phone number.
My student said, at open houses, she doesn't have to fill it out. She says, oh, it's an attorney. And
Fills it out for them.
it's a real estate agent.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they-
Because when they're on the spot like that,
Yeah. They can't.
Yeah.
come up with a name that fast.
Yeah.
If they're gonna lie to you. What's your agent?
great. Let's fast forward. We have a few minutes left to wrap up the class today. So agent to agent referrals is another great one, especially with KW Command. You have it built in where you're able to go into our portal on the referral side, which is the 5th app down. And I can say, hey, I have a client. I actually just had this closing on Monday with this, where I have a client who I sold this home here. And he's like, I'm moving to Texas. I have no agents out there. And he was moving to Dallas area. So I zoomed in on here. Can you guess what all these numbers are? The number of Keller Williams agents. Pretty crazy, right? So I said, well, what area specifically do you want to be in? And we dialed in on his specific area that he wanted to go to. And then I went on here and I said, I want to sort by, can't see the board, by closed units. I just did closed units. And I said, well, here's the top 4 people in that area. Let's see how many Christine has done. She's done 627 closed units. Okay, she knows what she's doing. I'm confident that if I pass her over to her, she has the systems built out to support my client at a high level.
Just give the one or.
I do 3. Well, it depends. I did 2 in this case, and I let the client interview those 2 agents over the phone to determine who they wanted to go with. But what I was able to do, and I called the agents first and just filled them out and asked a few questions. But then I was able to send a referral before I gave it to my clients. Yep. And actually the same thing, I actually have them call my client because I know the agents are systematic with their follow-up, right? And the client might not be. So I let the client know I was gonna have 2 agents reach out to him so they can interview him. So anyways, I called this agent, said, hey, I'm gonna send over a referral agreement. And here, based on if your client's pre-qualified, stuff like that, you can ask 25 to 30% and send it right through the KW referral network. You can also, before doing that, if you have maybe you moved from California and you know that you have a lot of clients in California, well, you should go find the top agents in your hometown and go and add them. And you can send a little invitation. Hey, Christine, I used to live in Dallas area and would love to send clients your way when I have people who need to buy in that area or sell, and build that relationship. So that way you can go back in and you have your network now built out in different cities. So agent to agent referrals is another great way to grow your business. So just showed you how to send a referral on there. Open houses, we've talked about that. That is a very huge key when you're starting off your business to find new buyers. They're highly motivated and ready to roll, obviously, if they're walking through homes. You want to make sure that you're adding people to your database so that you can systematically, through smart plans, interact with those people moving forward.
Question about referrals. Okay, so I have family in Logan and the area around that. Do I really want to go out to Logan? I don't know. So would I want to reach out and say, hey, well, if you.
I would. I personally would not want to show homes up there. Some people want, when you're starting out, you might want to. It's going to be, if you're like, hey, I need 2 transactions and I have no business right now, you might want to do that. Yeah. One of my first deals was up in Ogden area. Was not a fun time going and showing 3, homes up there, right? 2 different times. But it was one of my first deals. And it's like, I'm willing to do whatever it is to get business right now. Now in my career, I would not do that. I would hire either an agent to show homes up there. So hire a KW agent, pay him $50 or $75 to go show homes and still do the business. Or if I really felt like I couldn't support that person at a high level, then I would actually hire an agent out there fully to take it on and just do a referral fee. Yep. Do none of the work, but take 30% of the reward. So
Might as well do that instead of it being really hard.
exactly. Yeah. And not delivering a high quality experience. That's where I make the decision. Can I deliver a high quality, high value experience to this person where they're going to refer people to me? Or are they going to see a breakdown in my systems because I just can't support that area effectively? If that's the case, I'm going to pass them on to somebody who can support them at a high level. For social media, just a really good tip. I won't hit on it too hard because Stetson's going to be teaching a class on this later today. But of your posts, because this is a very common question people ask, 20% of your stuff should be business, 80% should be personal. Just kind of a good rule of thumb. %, of agents got 90% of top producing agents got 90% of their business from 5 sources or less. So again, this is that piece of not spreading yourself too thin, getting very clear about the methods you're going to use and going all in on those specific methods, becoming an expert or a master of those specific prospecting methods. Okay, ahas. So we're going to go ahead and take 2 minutes to wrap up this class. And I want you to go ahead and look at the notes you've taken today. If you didn't take notes, go ahead and take notes really quick on what are the ahas or the top takeaways that are going to support your business moving forward. What did you learn that you know is going to make an impact in your business? And go ahead and circle those 1 to 3 different items in your notes. The things that you want to take action on, that's the key. What are you going to take action on in the next 30 days of your business? Go ahead and circle that. All right. So we're going to actually just kind of snake around the room and get one top takeaway and then what you're planning to take action on. Those are the 2 things. 1 top takeaway and what are you planning to take action on in the next 30 days? So we'll start with Stetson.
Top takeaway was I actually messaged Rich right away when you mentioned this, was to do the electronic business card instead of like an actual business card. So I'm going to get that set up and going. And then
so just to help out with that, anybody else that would like to do it, Blue Social. Let me actually pull it up really quick and I'll show you what mine looks like. And that way you can utilize this. If you have an iPhone, turn on your AirDrop and I'll send it to you. Okay, did I miss anybody? Okay. And is yours set to everyone? So it might be friends only. So if you go to settings, got the wheel right there, and then pull down on the screen, and then type in AirDrop right there. Yeah, that is the general third one down. Yep, there we go. I think there's like a premium service built in there that gives you like more options that you can do. But if you just hit add contacts, go back to that really quick. Just hit add contact. So this is what I do with a person. You see how that happened? So everybody just, once you have this page pulled up, hit add contact. It's right by my picture. Oh, let's see. Did yours come through?
Yes.
Adrian? Okay.
What if I don't have an iPhone?
I'll text it to you. No worries.
You don't get it, just put it.
Okay, Bibiana, it should come through. Is yours set to everyone?
Yeah, I just.
Okay. Just add to contacts right there. See how that worked? So if you go back to it, so and now I have to walk with the client through this. So if I hit add to contacts in the top right, how iPhones work, you have to like hit save, and it saves the whole, because when you open it up, it just shows all my contact info. You've actually got to save it to their contact. So it saves it to their actual contact app. Let me actually see if I can screen share this really quick. Cool. Okay. So that's just one alternative, but there's other options you can use that are similar to that, where it's quick, easy to set up. And then you can just walk a person through it. So have them click add contacts. So I just do it really quick. I'm like, here, go ahead and click add contacts, hit that save button. Perfect. Now you've got all my information, but I've texted that to them. So I don't airdrop it like I just did to you guys. Okay. So that way I have their phone number. Cool. Okay. Perfect. Thanks, Stetson.
You can use the same profiles, blues. Or texting.
Yeah, you can text that to somebody. Okay, so just top takeaway and your action.
Okay, my top takeaway is offers at the end of conversation. And my action is just blocking out prospecting time.
Great.
Top takeaway is stories sell and collecting data. That's my big one I'm going to be working on.
Awesome. Where are you going to store that data? There we go.
Yeah. Top takeaway. It's kind of the same thing as my action is just work on SOI. And it was kind of like an affirmation. Like yesterday, I started working on SOI and I got a buyer from it. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
My top takeaway was the 80% of your time should be in 20% of activities. And my action plan next week is to invite people to the social thing, the Jakers Farm thing.
Yep.
My top takeaway was I need to hunt and farm. Well, all of their actions, I want to do it all. But I want to ask Rich about his door hanger and market update thing, because I want to
Awesome.
do some of that.
My top takeaway was just to have more intentional interactions with people. And what I'll be doing with that to more effectively implement it is to make sure I make an offer at the end of every discussion that I have with people.
My top takeaway, I think I mentioned it early, never stop prospecting no matter how much business you have. And then to keep working on consistency so I can get more business.
My takeaway was always make an offer. I also like the QR code as well, something that's effective. Yeah. Kind of along the same lines as Travis, just a lot of affirmation that working the SOI and actually having the conversations, it's working, it's proving itself to work. So just keep on it. And I like the idea of the QR code too with the flyers. I feel like that could really help with like open houses and even just getting people to look at your site. Try and take some action on that this week.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming to this session today. And last words that I'd love to share is just to focus on making sure, again, you're prospecting based, marketing enhanced to start your career for the first couple of years. And then also making an offer. Make sure that you're not just calling people just to call people, but that you have some sort of offer, even if it's, hey, I'd love to stay in touch. Is that okay with you? Always make an offer, okay? And to really move your business forward, the offers you want to get very good at doing every week is, hey, I would love to sit down and go through a consultation and help you understand what it looks like to buy or to sell or to invest, whatever their specific needs are, and setting those appointments. That's the greatest offer you can make week in and week out, okay, is setting appointments. Awesome. Thanks, guys. We will see you back on Monday. In that session, just kind of give you a layout of the land for next week and what to expect. We will be here at 10 a.m. for, pull up the calendar. It's Marketing to Win. And that's going to be with Marisol. And she is going to talk about how to, basically the other side of this conversation, right? Which is how do you market yourself as a new agent, which she does awesome at. And then you have on Wednesday next week, we have the Art of Negotiation with Courtney Nilsson. That class is in the afternoon. That is at 1 o'clock, not 10 as usual. For yeah, 10 a.m. will be most Ignite sessions, but for Courtney, we had to do that one at 1. And then on Friday, we'll be back in for Crush the Buyer consultation with Kim. And that will be at 10 a.m. So Monday at 10, Wednesday at 1, Monday at 10, or Friday at 10. Yeah. These are on the KW Ignite Zoom. Obviously, you're going to get a better ROI from the experience if you can be here in person, but yeah, we do have them recorded. Yeah. Yes, script practice at 9 a.m. each of those days. On Wednesday, will be at 12. Yep, right before. It's just an hour before. Yeah, so 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and then 9 o'clock will be the times we'll meet down here. Awesome. Okay, you guys have a great weekend.